What is up, guys? It's Quack Attack back here again with a brand new video. Uh, so today is going to be another deck profile, but as you can see, this is not a Digimon deck. Instead, this is a Magic the Gathering Commander deck. So if you guys did not know, um, Magic has two formats, or like they have more formats, but the most popular two are Standard and Commander. In Standard format, you have a 60 card deck. You can have up to 4 of the same card in your deck, and it's a lot of fun. You just play uh, lands, use that, play creatures. Commander is the exact same premise, but it's very different. So you take one legendary creature and you have that as your commander. This is what you build your deck around. You can build it based off an archetype, like like slivers, any keyword effects, and the color of the commander. So this commander is all colors. So you can build. So this is an all color, basically a rainbow deck. But usually, if it's like black red, you can only use black and red cards and use black and red mana. But this is all 5, so we can use all of them. And this deck is 100 cards, including the commander. So the main deck is 99 cards, and you can only use one copy of each card, except for basic lands like forests, mountains, swamps. You can use any number. But yeah, so this was the first ever Magic Commander deck I built, or I had. This is also the one that taught me how to play the game. It was very fun. It was very easy to use. It was very simple. And yeah, let's just go ahead and dive into it. Starting with my commander. My commander is the Sliver Hive Lord. It is a 5/5 Sliver, legendary creature with all 5 colors, and the effect that slivers you control have indestructible, which means they can't be targeted by spells or destroyed in any way. So yeah, now we'll go ahead and move on into the main deck creatures. If I can grab them. There you go. So yeah, so main deck creatures. I'm playing another legendary creature in here, Sliver Grave Mother. The legend rule does not apply to slivers I control. So the legend rule is that you can only have one copy. You can only have one card. One card. You can only have one legendary creature card with that name. So you can't have multiple Sliver Hive Lords on the field at the same time. But the legend rule stops that, so I can have as many Sliver Hive Lords or Sliver Grave Mothers as I want. That makes more sense by making copies of it. But it's a 6/6 Sliver. Its effect is that each Sliver card in your graveyard has Encore X, where X is its mana value, and Encore 5. So Encore is when you exile the card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn if able. Then they gain haste, and you could sacrifice them at the beginning of the next step and activate only as a sorcery. So this was actually the commander, the face commander of the precon I bought for this, but I liked Sliver Hive Lord's effect better. But I am going to be upgrading this deck, adding Sliver Hive Lord to the main deck, and getting a new commander, which will be the first Sliver. But yeah, so that'll be in the future. But yeah, so that's our Wooburg commander or Sliver. But we also have Bone Splitter Sliver. It is a 3 colorless, 1 red mana. It's a 2/2, and all Sliver creatures you control, or all Sliver creatures get +2/+0. We also have a Crystalline Sliver. It is a white-blue. All slivers you control, all slivers have Shroud, which is they can't be the target of spells or abilities, and it is a 2/2. Then we have Cleaving Sliver. It is 3 colorless and 1 red mana. It's a 2/2 sliver. With slivers you control, get +2/+0. Then we have Shifting Sliver. It's 3 colorless and a blue, 2/2. Sliver creatures can't be blocked except by slivers. Gemhide Sliver. It's a 1/1, 1 colorless, 1 green. With all slivers have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Sedge Sliver. It's a 2/2. All Sliver creatures have this creature gets +1/+1 as long as you control a swamp. And all Slivers have pay 1 black, regenerate this permanent. Then we have a Realm Walker. It is a changeling shapeshifter, which turns it into a Sliver with the changeling effect. And as Realm Walker enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, and then you may look at the top card of your library at any time and cast creature spells of the chosen type from the top of your library. And it is a 2/3. Then we have Siphon Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have lifelink. Bone Scythe Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have double strike. Lazotep Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have afflict 2. And then whenever a non-token Sliver you control dies, you can amass Slivers 2. Then we have a Cloud Shredder Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have flying and haste. A Winged Sliver. All Slivers have flying. Harmonic Sliver. All Slivers have, when this permanent enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Then we have Diffusion Sliver. Whenever a Sliver creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 2 mana. Then Clot Sliver. All Slivers have pay 2, regenerate this permanent. We have a Striking Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have first strike. A Ward Sliver. As Ward Sliver comes into play, choose a color. All Slivers have protection from the chosen color. A Synapse Sliver. Whenever a Sliver deals combat damage to a player, its controller may draw a card. Hatchery Sliver. Replicate 1 and agree. You can pay 1 and agree to replicate, and then each Sliver spell you cast has replicate, and the replicate cost is equal to its mana cost. Then we have Titan of Littjara. As it enters the battlefield, you can choose a creature type, and then Titan of Littjara is the chosen type in addition to its other types. And then whenever Titan of Littjara enters the battlefield or attacks, you may draw a card for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. If you do, draw or discard a card. Then we have a Necrotic Sliver. All Slivers have pay 3, sacrifice this permanent, destroy targeted permanent. Then we have Mana West Sliver. All Sliver creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Then we have a Spiteful Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have, whenever this creature is dealt combat damage, it deals that much damage to target player or planeswalker. Then we have a Megantic Sliver. Sliver creatures you control get +3/+3. We have a Sentinel Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have vigilance. Then we have a Brood Sliver. When a Sliver deals combat damage to a player, its controller may create a 1/1 colorless Sliver creature token. Then we have a Capricious Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library, and you may play that card this turn. Then we have a Sinew Sliver. All Sliver creatures get +1/+1. A Blur Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have haste. A Gale Rider Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have flying. Hibernation Sliver. All Slivers have pay 2 life, return this permanent to its owner's hand. Blade Sliver. All Slivers get +1/+0. Constricting Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have, when this creature enters the battlefield, you may exile target creature and opponent controls until this creature leaves the battlefield. I have a Crypt Sliver. All Slivers have tap, regenerate target Sliver. A Venom Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have Death Touch. A Regal Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have, when this creature enters the battlefield, Sliver creatures you control get +1/+1 until the end of turn. If you are the monarch, otherwise you become the monarch. Quicksilver has flash, and any player may cast Sliver spells as though they had flash. We have a Taunting Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have, when this creature enters the battlefield, goad target creature and opponent controls. And then Might Sliver. All Sliver creatures get +2/+2. So this is a lot of creatures, but again, this is just the creatures. We still have a lot more of this deck left to go. So let's go ahead and get into the enchantment. So for the enchantments, we're only running 3. I'm playing a Descendant's Fury. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice one of them. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature. Put that card into the battlefield and put the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. Then we have Propaganda. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 mana for each creature they control that's attacking you. And then Wild Pair. When a creature comes into play, if you play it from your hand, you may search your library for a creature card with the same total power and toughness and put it into play. If you do, shuffle your library. So this is good just to help ramp out your slivers onto the field. Propaganda is good for stopping attacks, and Descendant's Fury is good to play stuff from your deck. Alright, then we have Instants, which are kind of like traps in Yu-Gi-Oh! We're only running 2. First is an Arcane Denial. Counter target spell, its controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep, and then you draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. And then we have for the Ancestors, you can choose a creature type, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of cards from the chosen type from among them, and put the revealed cards into your hand and put the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order, and as flashback 3 and 1 green. And now I believe it is time for the sorceries. So for sorceries, playing a Farseek, search your library for a Plains, Island, Swamp, or Mountain card and put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. A Decimate, destroy target artifact, target creature, target enchantment, and target land. A Windfall, each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. A Cleansing Nova, you could choose 1, destroy all creatures or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. 3 visits, search your library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. A Farseek, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put one of them into the battlefield tapped, and put the other into your hand, then shuffle. Then we have a Living Death. Each player exiles all creature cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, then puts all cards they exiled this way onto the battlefield. Then we have a Kodama's Reach. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put one onto the battlefield tapped, and the other into your hand, then shuffle. Then we have a Nature's Lore. Search your library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. A Distant Melody. Choose a creature type, draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. And a Migration Path. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, then put them onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library and add Cycling for 2 mana. Yeah, those are all the sorceries. A lot of them are helping me to ramp for basic lands because I don't play a lot of basic lands in the deck. So yeah. Now for artifacts, we have a Soul Ring. You tap it to add 2 colorless mana. An Arcane Signet. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So it can tap for any mana in slivers. A Felwar Stone. Tap to add 1 mana of any color of a land that an opponent controls could produce. A Chromatic Lantern. Lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, and itself can tap to add 1 mana of any color. Pillar of Origins. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, tap to add 1 mana of any color, and spend that mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. We have a Vanquisher's Banner. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, and creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1, and whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, you draw a card. Then we have an Icon of Ancestry. As Icon of Ancestry enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, And creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. Then you can pay 3 mana to tap it and look at the top 3 cards of your library. And then you may reveal a creature card of the chosen type from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest onto the bottom of your library in a random order. Then we have a Herald's Horn. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, and then creature spells of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. And at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. And then we have a Millstone. Pay 2 cards, tap this card, and then target player mills 2 cards from their deck. And then we have all the lands. So we're playing a command tower. Tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Path of Ancestry enters the battlefield tapped, and then you may tap and add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, you can scry 1. In Unclaimed Territory, when it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Tap to add a colorless mana, or you can tap to add 1 mana of any color and spend it only to cast a creature of the chosen type. Then we have a Secluded Courtyard. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. You can tap to add 1 colorless mana, or you can tap to add 1 mana of any color, and spend that mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, or activate an ability of a creature or a creature card of the chosen type. Then we have an Exotic Orchard. Tap to add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. Then we have Ash Barrens. You can tap to add a colorless and as basic land cycling for 1 mana. A Scattered Groves. You can tap to add a green or white mana, and when it enters the battlefield tapped, and it has cycling for 2 mana. Then we have a Canopy Vista. It taps for a green or white, and then when it enters the battlefield tapped unless I control 2 or more basic lands. We have a Prairie Stream. Taps for a white or blue mana. When it enters the battlefield, it enters tapped unless I control 2 or more basic lands. And we have a Irrigated Farmland. It adds for white or blue, and then when it enters the battlefield tapped, and it has cycling for 2 mana. Then we have a Sheltered Thicket. It enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for a red and a green, and it has cycling for 2 mana. A lot of these dual color lands share a lot of the same effects with the cycling, and enters tapped unless you control 2 basic lands. Sunken Hollow enters tapped unless you control 2 basic lands. It taps for a blue and a black. We have a Smoldering Marsh that taps for a black or a red. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Then we have a Sandstep Citadel. Enters tapped, and it adds a white, black, or green. A Opulent Palace. Enters tapped and adds a black, green, or blue. Then we have a Mystic Monastery. Enters tapped and adds a blue, red, or white. Then we have a Seaside Citadel. Enters tapped and adds a green, white, or blue. Then we have a Jungle Shrine. Enters tapped and adds a red, green, or white. Then we have a Savage Lands. Enters tapped and adds a black, red, or green. We have a Frontier Bivouac. Enters tapped and it adds a green, blue, or red mana. And now we're getting into the basic lands. So for basic lands, I am running 4 Swamp, 3 Islands, 3 Forests, 2 Plains, and 2 Mountains. So yeah, that's all the mana for the deck. This is what you use to cast your creatures and all your other cards and such. But yeah, guys, so that was my Magic the Gathering Sliver Commander deck profile. It's weird, the one thing I rarely ever see it on Magic the Gathering content is actual deck profiles for Commander decks or any deck, in fact. And yeah, I know it takes a minute because it's a 100 card deck, Like, this video is already about 20 minutes long now, but I feel like I never see any commander or magic deck profiles, so I thought, why not do one myself? But yeah, here you are. So yeah, that was my first commander deck profile. There will be more on the way. Just stay tuned. If you like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.